They got out of the car and then started asking me, why am I out of my house after curfew? Like I explained to them, this is my house. I'm living here. I don't understand what they mean, how am I out of my house? It's the only place that I have got to stay. Besides that, like on a park bench, but a car is much safer, warmer. You know, at least you've got doors to lock so no one can really attack you. They could throw stuff at your car, but that's about it. There's not much you can really do if you're in a car, so I don't think they should be giving fines. They should be helping. That's what the police are meant to be there for, to help people, not to harass. I don't feel lucky about the fine, but I feel luckier than some other homeless people that have got nothing. I would say to the officers, have a heart and think about, you know, people that are doing it hard and maybe give them a break. To take half of the money I've saved to get into a place, it's a big kick. At least I've got something to put stuff in and be a bit safe. You know, have the rain off my head. You know, it might not be the most comfortablest, it might not be the most best situation, but at the moment that's all we can do. I know if I'd seen someone on the street, like I've given my jacket to a homeless person before because they were freezing cold. You know, you don't go giving them, you know, throwing rocks at them. Pretty much that's what the police did. They threw rocks at me. I believe in God and stuff like that, and I've been asking him, please help me with these fines, help me with the house. And he's answered one of my prayers because you rang me and Madeline's been in contact with me, and it's really, I feel really blessed to have someone that actually cares.
Avi Yamini here from the world's capital of COVID enforcement. We're in the state of Victoria where 20,000 fines for COVID breaches have already been issued. Now, since we launched fightthefines.com.au, we've been inundated with outrageous stories, but none more outrageous than the one you're about to hear. Daniel Wright grew up locally to Mornington Peninsula, but due to circumstances, not by choice, he's been living in his car. Daniel Wright was here on this corner on the 10th of August when he was pulled over by 2 Victoria police officers and fined $1,650 for essentially being homeless because they say he was breaching the COVID curfew by being in his car, which is where he sleeps. He tried to explain that to the officers who were not having a bar of it. Daniel's story came through fightthefines.com.au, and when I saw it, I was outraged, and I knew I had to share it with you, and I know you're going to share it with everyone. And together we're going to crowdfund to fight for his case. So fightthefines.com.au. Share Daniel's story.
I haven't had my own place for 4 years at the moment, which is way too long for me. I'm like really starting to get stressed. I've had back surgery, and it just doesn't help being where I'm at.
So is this a life choice? Are you doing this because you want to sleep in your car?
No, not at all.
So how does it feel then getting pulled up for breaching curfew, which means that you were outside of your house while being in the place that you sleep at night, not by choice?
I was being picked on. I felt like they were bullying me. They got out of the car and then started asking me, why am I out of my house after curfew? Like I explained to them, this is my house. I'm living here. I don't understand what they mean, how am I out of my house? This
is your last resort. You don't have anywhere else. That's what
correct.
People need to understand. And you made that clear to the cops that night.
Yeah, 100% clear. Yeah, it's quite clear that I live in my car. There's all the clothes in the boot, there's blankets in the back. I felt they were very heartless in the way they treated me. And then they said, well, you're on your license, is this address? You must be at this address.
Now your ID has your mum's address
on it, yep, and has since I got my learner's permit because I can't read and write, so it's always been at that address. It's never ever changed.
And that's the basis of their argument. Your home address, you weren't there, but it hasn't been your home for how many years?
Since I was 16 years old, and I'm now 38.
I've told you before off camera, I've spent a couple nights in my life as a kid, as a young teenager on the street, and I don't wish that upon my worst enemies. So, but I couldn't imagine being fined for sleeping in the last place I want to sleep.
No, yeah, it's not fun at all to be fined for sleeping somewhere. It's not comfortable, cold, plus you've got idiots that want to come up and do stuff. You know, you feel threatened and scared anyway as you're out there, but I'd much rather be in a house where I don't have to worry. You know, I'm sure everyone would rather be in a house and be somewhere where they can park their car up and then they can just go inside and relax.
If you pay that fine, then you're going to be homeless for longer because half the money you've saved to get a home is gone.
Yeah, over half the money, because it's $1,650. I have $3,000 there to get a place.
Well, guess what? You're not going to have to do that because everybody at home is going to watch this and they're going to crowdfund your defence to fight that fine. And you've got Madeline, who you've already spoken to, who I can tell you firsthand is a gun lawyer. She's won every single my criminal cases that were politically motivated until now. She's won 7 of them for me. So you are in brilliant hands. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Feel pretty blessed. And I thank you and everyone for all their help, because yeah, it's very helpful, because I've been to court before and you know, they don't really listen to you. And to pay for a lawyer, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but I'm sure it's going to be a couple of $1,000s. It's
going to be far more than the fine, but this is why people want to jump in, because we could just pay the fine, we could crowdfund just the fine, but I think it's the principle here.
Yeah, it's not the point. That's right, it's not the point.
Thanks for joining us today, Madeline, and thank you for taking on Daniel's shocking case. I know you can't tell us everything, but what can you tell us about Daniel's case?
Daniel's case raises some interesting and important questions, both legally and socially, but ultimately I think his case is actually pretty simple. The infringement notice that he's been given says out during curfew. The offence that relates to, and the offence that Daniel is now going to be contesting in the Magistrates Court, is that he refused or failed to comply with a direction given to him or a requirement made of him, and that's just legal terminology. I think Daniel does a great job himself at describing the absurdity of that infringement being given to him given his personal circumstances. In addition, the law says that it's a defence. A person who is charged under these provisions will have a defence if they have a reasonable excuse. Daniel says he has a reasonable excuse. I think
the world says Daniel has a reasonable excuse.
Again, Daniel does a great job in explaining the absurdity of having been given an infringement in his personal circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Did he have a reasonable excuse, or should he have to pay a significant fine for what's effectively his misfortune? Which he explained his circumstances to the police at the time. He explained his circumstances again when he submitted a request for internal review, which was ultimately refused.
In that review, you can see that they state themselves that they've taken his circumstances into account, which makes no sense to me. Do you think he has a strong case in this situation?
Well, look, Avi, his story speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Thank you very much, Madeline. We'll keep up to date with you as his case progresses.
Thanks, Avi.
Hopefully by the end of it, not only will you have beat the fine, you'll also be living in a nice, comfortable, warm home.
Hopefully, but yes, I feel very blessed for the call that you gave me. I couldn't believe it when you rang me. I really couldn't believe it.
Well, I'm telling you now, I couldn't believe your story.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a hard one to believe. Like I said, when I put it in for a review with the letter from my doctor and stuff like that, they sent me back a letter saying that they do not, they don't accept it, and that there'll be the fine. Do I want to take it to court? So, yeah.
And we're doing it. And we're taking it to court, because we're not going to let it end there. We're not going to let them bully anybody, especially in your case.
I've got just your barbecue cooker with the tongs in here. And you just keep a bottle in there as well. But most of the time before all this corona stuff, we were just using the local barbecues down the beach. But you're not allowed to use them now because of all this stuff, and not allowed to be in a park area. So it really makes life hard.
Was there any way that you were putting anyone at risk in the community in spreading coronavirus?
No, so there was no one out. It was thinking about 12:05 in the evening, so there was no one anywhere. The only car that was out was the police car that pulled in front of me. There's lots of people, it's not just me that's on the street, there's lots of people out there, and some of them don't even have the advantage of being in a car. They're just on park benches or just in parks. So I could imagine what's happening to them.
You're telling me you feel lucky in this situation?
Yeah, I feel very lucky compared to some of the other homeless people out there that, you know, they're on park benches.
I think most people
have the luxury of a roof. They get rained on. They get people that throw stuff at them, you know. At least I've got a bit of protection.
I think most viewers will listen and hear what you're saying now, going, wow, this guy thinks he's lucky and he's been fined for breaching curfew because his car is his home.
I don't feel lucky about the fine, but I feel luckier than some other homeless people that have got nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're carrying around a bag or pushing a shopping trolley. At least I've got something to put stuff in and be a bit safe. You know, have the rain off my head. You know, it might not be the most comfortablest, it might not be the most best situation, but at the moment that's all we can do with Daniel Andrews stopping inspections. We started looking for houses when the first corona stuff came around, and then they completely stopped it. At first it was only one person in the house at a time. You had to have your hands sanitised, you had to have your mask, stuff like that, which was fine. And then after that, complete ban. You know, not allowed to look at it anymore. And I think it's just started from last Sunday, I think. We're allowed to look at houses now. So that's really good. So we can start filling out our one form applications, because you have to do an inspection. If you don't do an inspection, you can't apply for the property.
The cycle of destruction that causes, to think that either you having to spend your money to pay the fine or spend the money, which will be far more money to fight it, at the end of it, they're setting you up for failure.
They are setting me up for failure.
If the two officers were here right now, standing in front of you, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say to the officers, have a heart and think about, you know, people that are doing it hard and maybe give them a break.
What's your message to people out there that are getting these crazy fines? Because you weren't out there just, you know, breaking the rules, having a big party. You were in your car. Yeah. What's your message to other people that are getting outrageous fines?
You've got to stand up for it and maybe try to fight the fines and see if if Avi can help you, because like I didn't even think that it was going to happen. I just thought I'll put it in, and if it happens, I'll be blessed. If it doesn't, well, I'll deal with it when I go to court, and I'll just explain from my heart to the judge and hope he has some compassion. I'll
tell you right now, every Aussie is going to stand behind you, and we're going to do it together, because as Daniel Andrews keeps saying, we're in this together.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, we're in it together.
You're the Aussie battler. You're trying to get out of this rut.
Yeah.
You're saving your money.
Yeah.
You're living out of your car, which is obvious. Anybody who would have pulled up and willing to look inside your boot can see. It's outrageous that any police even has the power to book you in this situation.
Well, that's what I agree with you there. I don't understand how they can do that.
What a story, and like you, I wouldn't have believed it unless I heard it directly from Daniel himself. It's outrageous to think that this is going on in 2020 in Melbourne, Australia. They're targeting the most vulnerable in our society under the guise of protecting us from coronavirus. But Daniel's not alone, because luckily Rebel News is stepping up, doing something that no one in this country is doing, not even any civil liberties organisation. But we need your help to crowdfund it at fightthefines.com.au, and also share it. Let people know what's happening. Tell Daniel's story for him. Share it on every platform you have, far and wide. And if you have a story of your own, an outrageous fine, please submit it now at fightthefines.com.au, because we're going to fight for as many Aussies as we possibly can. If you love this idea to fight the fines down under as much as I do, make sure to hit the like button below and share the video far and wide, because you never know who on your friends or family list can benefit from this campaign or able to help us help others. Again, fightthefines.com.au, because as you know, we're in this together.